So just like I said coming out of the Auburn game, when the moment was the biggest and the lights were the brightest, that's when the Crimson Tide showed up in their best form we've seen all year. Because yesterday, the Crimson Tide rolled the Georgia Bulldogs in an upset that we have got to talk about and break down because there are some large implications to this upset. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, give me a Y for yes or an N for no. Are you surprised at how this game went down? And let me know what you're thinking. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. I'm on my push to 10,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you along. And if you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and comment down below. Those interactions, though they may seem small, are truly massive to content creators such as myself in both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But with all that being said, let's hop straight into this. And first and foremost, if you watched my preview video for this game, there were some areas in which, even before this game, I felt like Alabama could exploit some matchups, particularly on the outside. And the one game I pointed to get your attention to look back on was Tennessee. Because when Tennessee played Georgia, they got crushed, but they were able to move the ball from the 30 to the 30. It's just when they got down in a condensed field, the Georgia Bulldogs defense absolutely massacred them. But that ability to move the ball from the 30 to the 30 was the first thing I noticed, and I had to figure out why they were able to do that. And that's exactly what Alabama did so successfully all night long. Now, the reason why I was confident is once I figured out the whys as to how Tennessee was able to move the ball, then I had to look at, can Alabama score when they get in the red zone? And comparatively, I love Alabama's playmakers, specifically on the outside. Sure, I'm an Alabama fan, but even removing fandom from the conversation, Jamison Williams has been sensational all season. John Mechie has been fantastic. And the Crimson Tide quarterback situation is as good as you could possibly want. We're going to talk more about that. If you remember, my biggest question for this game was the trenches. Could Alabama's offensive line hold off this Georgia defensive front, who have been world beaters all year long, led by Jordan Davis? The Alabama offensive line, though talented, led by Evan Neal, who is a sensational tackle, there is no doubt about that, they have not been consistent all year long. We'll see drives where the Alabama offensive line has played great football, but it hasn't been something we've seen consistently. But they played their best game against Georgia. When the moment was the biggest, when the lights were the brightest, that's when they showed up. And that's all you can ask for, is when that moment comes, you step up to the plate. And that's exactly what we saw. Bryce Young just secured his Heisman Trophy, giving Nick Saban his first quarterback to win the Heisman, and what should be his fourth Heisman Trophy winner overall. Scariest thing overall is this is this quarterback's first year starting in college football. And oh yeah, he's coming back next year. In a year where a line should have more experience, more names coming about and developing, the sky is truly the limit for Bryce Young. He's just getting started and he's already that good. There are plays, if you go follow me on Twitter, my Twitter is linked down in the description. I have a tweet that I did earlier today in which I highlighted a play that someone was talking about, and I said, this is exactly why I call Bryce Young a magician. Because there are things he can do that you either can do them or you can't. There is no coaching some of the instincts Bryce Young has. And the play in question was when he had to scramble out the pocket, evaded a tackle, and then did a little pitch to Brian Robinson for a first down. That kind of play, you either can do it or you can't do it. And let's be perfectly honest, you have to be incredibly special just to do it and a coach not get after you. Because in all actuality, you are being reckless with the ball, but the special ones, the guys that have that it factor, the guys that have that special quality, they can do it. And they can do it and nobody bats an eyelash. And guess what? You're looking at one of those guys. And that's why I've been saying all year long, that's my Heisman Trophy winner. That is absolutely my Heisman Trophy winner. I absolutely don't understand how Will Anderson isn't getting more national recognition for awards, but we'll talk about that when we get to the defense. Bryce Young has been great all year round, and it was really awesome to see Jamison Williams yesterday as well. 7 receptions, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, and in a day where John Mechie went down with injury, and all of our thoughts and prayers are out to John Mechie and his family, hoping for a speedy recovery. The thing with Alabama's offense is we knew what kind of unit the offense was. We knew the skill positions. It was just all a question of the trenches, and once that question was answered, that's when I started thinking, oh man, Alabama could actually really, really do something in this game and show people something. And that's exactly what happened. The last thing I'll say before we talk about Alabama's defense in regards to Georgia's offense is something I said in the preview video, something I thought Georgia would do. I did not think Georgia would come out initially running a lot of blitzes. I didn't see that happening. And the reason is they haven't needed to all year. When you're a team that doesn't need to run the blitzes like that, you're going to bank on the fact that at some point you will be able to affect the quarterback with just a 4-man rush. That never happened. But in that preview, I did say I would be shocked if Georgia hadn't seen what LSU did, what Auburn did, and then tried to blitz Bryce Young. Now, even though I think they didn't try to the degree I was really expecting them to. I thought we'd see a lot more pressure out of Georgia, but I have to wonder why they didn't bring more pressure. I wonder if they were concerned that if the wide receivers were already winning the matchups in the way they were, that if they brought pressure and put their wide receivers in a true one-on-one situation, Bryce would be able to take advantage of it, especially if he gets out the pocket. Because we saw what happened when there was a man situation. Jamison Williams was running by dudes. Like they weren't even running. That guy right there has got so much speed. But I digress, and now we shift our focus to Alabama's defense. The Alabama defense yesterday played a really solid game. They mitigated Georgia's run. Georgia's a team that runs the ball very effectively, and at the end of the game, Georgia had 30 rush attempts for 109 yards. Sure, Georgia went over 100 yards rushing the ball, but I'm not concerned about the total rushing yards. I'm more concerned about how did we get there? What was the team like that got those rushing yards? And in Georgia's case, this was a team that relied on the run very heavily. This was a team that actually had a good offense. They weren't a top 10 total offense. They were a top 30 total offense, but they were a top 10 scoring offense. In fact, one below Alabama. Alabama sat at 5, Georgia sat at 6. So I knew that if Alabama could mitigate the running game, it was going to open up one other possibility, which was the tight end play, because I didn't think we'd even see as much of Pickens as we did yesterday. But even then, when he came out on the field and started throwing it to him, I was surprised we didn't see more of him, because if you're going to use him, go ahead and use him. That really didn't make much sense to me, but that's not my job. I knew if Alabama could mitigate the run, there was one thing Georgia was going to hit, and hit frequently, and that was the tight ends, because why wouldn't you? The tight end play right now in college football, not relegated to Georgia, but it's an utter mismatch. These tight ends are coming out, and these dudes are massive wide receivers. They can run, they can catch, they're athletic. And so instantly, they're already a mismatch for your linebackers. And that's why there's this weird juxtaposition in college football right now, but that's another reason why the nickel back is so important in college football. Because they've got to have somebody answer for these tight ends that are becoming increasingly athletic. And that's where Georgia turned their attention to. Now, ultimately, it wasn't able to win the game, but they were able to have enough success that at the very least, Alabama's defense can take that film and actually have something to really dive deep in and learn from. And let's make no mistake, I'm not saying there aren't other areas in this game where Alabama can improve from. Every time you step on the football field, every time you step outside of your house, you've opened yourself up to the opportunity to learn and improve. That's just life in general, but especially the game of football. That's the beauty of it. But what I am saying is that if you were to look at one area that you could say, okay, yeah, that definitely should be looked at, that'd be it. And even then, like I said, I do want to give credit where credit is due. Georgia's tight end play is really good. That young man has the most receiving yards of anybody on Georgia's team. So they've been effective to the tight end position. And this is a really good team. But that kind of goes to why this win is so great for the Crimson Tide. Not only did it lock up a college football playoff spot for Alabama, which is huge in this year, especially when you look at everything they've replaced, and I get it. Someone's going to say, oh, well, they replace things every year. That's the point. That's the point, that Alabama replaces things every year, and still they're here. It's not like it was a one-off. This is the norm in Tuscaloosa. It's just last year was a little bit different in what they had to replace, and still they're here. That blows my mind. And the fact that they can do that and then play a team like Georgia that has such a stellar defense, because look, we can say that Georgia's defense was overrated, and I'm not here to tell you that it wasn't. But what I will tell you is that in the same year where there are so many arguments for, oh, well, that team just won, that should be all that matters. Georgia held Division I college football teams to an average of under 1 touchdown a game, 6.9 points per game. I don't care who you play in college football. That's impressive. That is impressive. And for Alabama to be able to move the ball the way they did, it highlights why Bryce Young, in my opinion, is the bona fide Heisman lock. He's someone who I thought should win the Heisman since very early on in the season. Now there's no argument not to give it to him. Hop down in the comments, let me know. That's it. See ya.